Captain Do-hyun Kim stood on the bridge of the horizon looking at the stars. The ship had been in deep space for 3 months now. This was humanity's first long mission since Earth joined the Galactic Confederation. "Captain, I'm picking up a signal," said Lee Ji-ho, the communications specialist. His fingers moved quickly over the controls. "It's a distress call." Do-hyun walked over to Lee's station. "Play it." A strange sound filled the bridge. It wasn't a language any of them knew. The sound went up and down in pitch with clicks and whistles mixed in. "Can we figure out what they're saying?" Do-hyun asked. Han Ju-ri, the science officer, moved to her station. "I'll run it through our translation matrix. The Confederation gave us data on all known species." The crew waited as Ju-ri worked. The horizon continued moving toward the source of the signal. "I have something," Ju-ri said after a few minutes. "It's from a Vectari ship. They have engine trouble and can't move." Do-hyun had heard of the Vectari. They were one of the oldest species in the Confederation. They were known for their advanced technology and their pride. "How far away are they?" he asked. "About 2 hours at our current speed," said Bae Sung-ho, the pilot. "Take us there," Do-hyun ordered. "Ju-ri, prepare a response message. Tell them we're coming to help." Ju-ri sent the message. A reply came back quickly. The computer translated it. "Humans? No. Continue your journey. We will wait for proper assistance." Do-hyun frowned. "Send another message. Tell them we are the closest ship. If they wait for another Confederation vessel, it could be days." The second reply was no friendlier. "We would rather wait than accept help from primitives. Your technology is too simple to understand our systems." The crew looked at Do-hyun. He thought for a moment, then said, "We're still going. Confederation rules say we must help ships in distress. They don't have to like it." As the horizon approached, the Vectari ship, they could see it was much larger than their own. It had a sleek design with curved lines that seemed to flow. Despite its beauty, one section was clearly damaged. A part of the engine glowed an unhealthy red. "Open a channel," Do-hyun said. On the main screen, a face appeared. The Vectari had blue-gray skin, large eyes without pupils, and no visible ears. The alien wore what looked like a uniform with symbols on the shoulders. "I am Telex, captain of the Vectari science vessel Luminous Mind," the alien said. Its mouth moved strangely with the words, showing the translation wasn't perfect. "Who speaks for your ship?" "I am Captain Do-hyun Kim of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon. We've come to offer assistance." Telex's face showed what might have been a frown. "As I said in our message, we do not need human help. Your species has been part of the Confederation for less than 1 Earth year. What could you possibly know about Vectari technology?" "Perhaps we can learn," Do-hyun said calmly. "May we at least scan your ship to understand the problem?" Telex seemed to consider. "This you may scan, but do not approach without permission." The communication ended. "Well, they're not very friendly," said Park Tae-won, the ship's engineer. He was already looking at the scan results. "Interesting design, though. Their main power system is unlike anything I've seen before." Ju-ri looked over his shoulder. "Can you tell what's wrong?" Tae-won pointed to his screen. "This part here is overheating. It looks like a regulator failure. The energy isn't flowing properly through their system." "Can we help them fix it?" Do-hyun asked. Tae-won scratched his head. "Maybe, but I'd need to look at it up close." Do-hyun opened the channel again. When Telex appeared, he said, "Our engineer believes he understands the problem. With your permission, he would like to come aboard with a small team to help repair the damage." "Impossible," Telex said immediately. "Our technology is carefully protected. No outsiders may examine it, especially not humans." "Then how can we help you?" Do-hyun asked. "You cannot. We will wait for a proper Confederation repair team." Tae-won suddenly spoke up. "Captain, may I say something?" Do-hyun nodded. "Captain Telex," Tae-won said, stepping forward. "I believe your ship has a Type 7 quantum flow regulator failure. If I'm right, the main power core will reach critical temperatures in approximately 15 hours. The nearest Confederation repair team is at least 30 hours away. Telex's large eyes widened slightly. How could you know this? Taiwan pointed to his screen. Your power signature shows a clear pattern. The mathematics are universal even if the technology isn't. There was silence for a moment. Then Telex said, Perhaps we underestimated you. What do you propose? I believe we can create a bypass system using parts from our ship, Taiwan said. It won't be a permanent fix, but it will stabilize your core until proper repairs can be made. After some discussion, the Vectari finally agreed. A team from the horizon boarded the alien ship. The Vectari crew watched them closely, clearly, uncomfortable with humans touching their technology. Inside the engine room, Taiwan examined the damaged regulator. It's more complex than I thought, he admitted to Do-hyun. But the basic principles are similar to our systems. For the next 10 hours, Taiwan and his team worked on the bypass. The Vectari engineers watched with obvious doubt. When Taiwan suggested an unusual approach to connect the incompatible systems, one of the aliens actually laughed. That cannot work, the Vectari engineer said. The energy patterns are completely different. Different, yes, Taiwan agreed. But we can create a buffer using our ship's phase converters. It's not elegant, but it will hold. The Vectari didn't believe him until the system came online. The dangerous red glow of the engine faded to a healthy blue. The temperature readings dropped immediately. Captain Telex didn't thank them directly. Instead, he said, Your solution is crude but effective. We will be able to reach the repair station now. You're welcome, Do-hyun said with a small smile. As the human team prepared to leave, one of the younger Vectari approached Taiwan. Your approach was unexpected, the alien said quietly. I would be interested in learning more about human engineering techniques. Taiwan smiled. I'd be happy to share what I know. Back on the horizon, the crew watched as the Vectari ship powered up its engines and moved away. They could have said thank you, Lee Ji-ho said. Pride is a funny thing, Do-hyun replied. But we did what was right. That's what matters. He didn't know then that this small interaction would later be remembered throughout the galaxy. The Vectari would tell a different version of the story to other species. They would speak of primitive humans fumbling with technology they barely understood, but those who looked closer would notice something important. The humans had solved a problem the Vectari couldn't fix themselves, and they had done it with parts that shouldn't have worked together. It was the first hint that humans might be more than they appeared. A hint that most aliens, especially the Vectari, would ignore, until it was too late. 6 months had passed since the Horizon helped the Vectari ship. The Earth vessel was now docked at Nexus Station, a massive space hub where many Confederation species met and traded. Captain Do-hyun Kim walked through the crowded main plaza with Engineer Park Tae-won and Communications Specialist Lee Ji-ho. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved around them. Some had too many limbs, others had none at all. Some breathed different air and wore special suits. I still can't get used to this, Ji-ho said, looking at a tall, thin alien with 4 arms buying food from a small shop. Give it time, Do-hyun replied. Remember, to them, we're the strange ones. They stopped at a viewing area overlooking the docking bay. The horizon looked small next to the huge ships from other worlds. Captain Kim, a voice called. They turned to see Diplomat Kang Min-ho, Earth's representative at the station, walking toward them. His face looked worried. Diplomat Kang, Do-hyun, greeted him. Is something wrong? Min-ho glanced around before speaking quietly. Have you heard what the Vectari have been saying about humans? No, what? They've been telling stories about your encounter with their ship, but they're twisting. What happened? They're saying you barely understood their technology and almost made things worse. Taewon frowned. That's not true. My bypass worked perfectly. I know, Min-ho said, but the Vectari have been in the Confederation for centuries. Other species trust their word over ours. Do-hyun shook his head. It's just talk, it doesn't matter. It might, Min-ho warned. The Vectari seem determined to make humans look bad. Just be careful. As they continued walking, they passed a group of Vectari. The blue-skinned aliens stopped talking and stared as the humans went by. One of them made a sound that might have been a laugh. Later that day, the crew gathered in a large hall where representatives from many species were sharing technological innovations. Taiwan was eager to learn about new engineering techniques. A Vectari scientist named Morax was showing off a new power system. He was tall even for a Vectari, with dark blue skin and eyes that seemed to look down on everyone. This energy matrix is far beyond what most species can create, Morax was saying to the crowd. The principles are quite complex. When he saw the humans watching, he added, "Some species, of course, are still working with very basic technology. It would be like explaining quantum physics to a child." Several aliens in the crowd looked at the humans. Taiwan stepped forward. "Your design is impressive, but I notice it still uses standard phase coupling. We've found that modified inverted couplings can increase efficiency by at least 15%. The room went quiet. Morax's eyes narrowed. "Is that so? Perhaps the human would like to demonstrate this advanced technique." It was clearly a challenge. Do-hyun touched Taewon's arm, but the engineer nodded confidently. "I'd be happy to show you," Taewon said. Soon 2 workstations were set up side by side. A crowd gathered to watch as Taewon and Morax began working on similar power units. Medical Officer Yoon Sung-min and Security Chief Choi Da-in joined Do-hyun to watch. "Is this a good idea, Captain?" Da-in asked quietly. "Taewon knows what he's doing," Do-hyun said, though he felt uneasy. As they worked, Morax kept making comments about primitive human methods and basic understanding. Taewon ignored him and focused on his work. After an hour, both were almost finished. Taewon's design was different from Morax's, with parts arranged in a pattern the Vectari clearly didn't expect. When Taewon turned away to get a tool, Do-hyun noticed Morax reach over to Taewon's station and quickly adjust something. Tae-in saw it too and started forward, but it was too late. As Taewon connected the final component, there was a loud pop and a flash of blue light. Energy surged through the system. Alarms sounded as the power unit began to smoke. "Everyone back," Sung-min shouted, rushing forward to pull Taewon away. But the surge shot out in an arc of electricity, hitting Sung-min directly in the chest. He fell to the ground, his body shaking. Da-in and Do-hyun pulled both men back as station security sealed off the area. Sung-min wasn't moving. "He needs medical help now," Do-hyun shouted. As alien medics rushed in, Morax stepped back with a look of fake concern. How unfortunate. It seems the human design was unstable after all. Do-hyun wanted to confront the Vectari, but his first concern was his crew. Sung-min was taken to the medical bay, badly injured. Taewon had minor burns but was more worried about his friend. "It wasn't my design," Taewon insisted as a doctor treated his hands. Something was changed. The power regulator was reversed. "I saw Morax touch your station," Da-in told Do-hyun quietly. "He did something just before the explosion." Do-hyun reported this to the station's security, but the investigation was quick and unsatisfying. The Confederation officers interviewed Morax, who denied any wrongdoing. Without clear evidence, they ruled it an unfortunate accident. The human engineer likely made a simple mistake, the report concluded. Working with unfamiliar technology can be dangerous. 2 days later, the crew gathered in Sung-min's medical room. The doctor was awake but weak. The energy surge had damaged his heart and nervous system. He would need special treatment back on Earth. "I'm sorry, Captain," Sung-min said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You have nothing to be sorry for," Do-hyun replied, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We're going home to get you proper care." As they prepared to leave Nexus Station, Diplomat Kang visited them one last time. "I've filed a formal complaint about the incident," he told Do-hyun. "But I must warn you, the Vectari have powerful friends in the Confederation. They sabotaged our equipment and injured my crew member," Do-hyun said angrily. "And they get away with it? For now," Kang said. "I advise caution, Captain. Earth is still new to the Confederation. We can't afford to make enemies." As the Horizon departed, the crew was quiet. They had come to the station excited to learn and share. Now, They were leaving with one of their own badly hurt. What will happen now? Jiho asked as they watched the station shrink on the view screen. We report what happened, Do-hyun said. And we remember. None of them knew that this was just the beginning. The Vektari had crossed a line, thinking humans were too weak to respond. They believed humans would accept their place as lesser beings in the Confederation. It was the first rule they broke. They had angered humans, and they would soon learn what a terrible mistake that was. 3 months had passed since the incident at Nexus Station. Medical Officer Yoon Sung-min was recovering in a hospital on Earth. The damage to his heart and nerves was slowly healing, but the doctor said he would never serve on a starship again. Captain, Do-hyun Kim stood by the window in the Earth Defense Headquarters, looking out at the busy spaceport. Ships of all sizes moved in and out, most of them human vessels, but some alien craft as well. Captain, a voice called. Do-hyun turned to see communications specialist Lee Ji-ho walking toward him. Ji-ho had dark circles under his eyes. He hadn't been sleeping well. Any news about your brother? Do-hyun asked. Ji-ho shook his head. His research ship should have reported in yesterday. Still nothing. I'm sure they're fine, Do-hyun said, though he felt a strange worry in his stomach. Too many unusual things had been happening lately. The door opened and Director Shin Hee-jin entered with Security Chief Choi Da-in. Director Shin was in charge of Earth's defense forces. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a serious face. Thank you for coming, she said. We have a problem. The Vektari have established a research station near our Mars colony. That's against the treaty, Do-hyun said. Mars and its orbit are Earth territory. They claim it's just outside our space, Hae-jin said. By about 1 kilometer. Diane pulled up a map on the screen. Here's their position. They're technically right, but it's clearly a provocation. Do-hyun studied the map. What are they researching? They won't say, Hae-jin replied. They cite Confederation rules about scientific freedom. Over the next hour, they discussed all the recent problems with the Vektari. 3 Earth supply ships had been stopped and searched by Vektari vessels. A human trade mission had been denied. Access to a Confederation market because of security concerns. And now this research station right on the edge of Earth space. They're testing us, Diane said. Seeing how much we'll take before we push back. Jiho's communicator beeped. He looked at it, and his face went pale. Excuse me, he said, stepping out of the room. The meeting continued, but Do-hyun was worried about Jiho. When he returned 10 minutes later, his eyes were red. What happened? Do-hyun asked quietly. It's my brother's ship, Jiho said, his voice shaking. It was destroyed. They're saying it was hit by a Vektari warship near the Beta colony. The room went silent. Hae-jin stepped forward. Are you certain? Jiho nodded. The Vektari are claiming it was a mistake. They say they thought it was a pirate vessel. A research ship? Da-in said angrily. How could they mistake a research ship for pirates? Over the next few days, more details came in. The Earth research vessel Explorer had been completely destroyed. All 32 people on board had died, including Jiho's brother. The Vektari government expressed regret for the unfortunate incident and offered a small payment to the families of those lost. Earth demanded a full investigation and proper compensation. The Confederation Council agreed to look into the matter, but most species seemed to accept the Vektari explanation that it was an accident. 1 week later, Do-hyun and his crew were called to a special meeting at Earth Defense Headquarters. The room was filled with military officers and government officials. Admiral Song Jae-woo, the head of Earth's space fleet, stood at the front with Director Shin. Thank you all for coming, Admiral Song said. What I'm about to share is classified at the highest level. The lights dimmed and a screen showed images of the destroyed research ship. But these weren't the public images. These showed the ship from multiple angles, clearly marked with Earth symbols, clearly not armed. We've recovered data from a communications satellite near the incident, Admiral Song continued. The Explorer identified itself 3 times to the Vektari ship. They knew exactly what they were firing on. There was angry muttering in the room. Jiho stared at the screen, his hands gripping the table. Why would they do this? Engineer Park Tae-won asked. Because they can, Director Shin said simply. They believe there will be no consequences. They see us as weak. Admiral Song showed more images, secret recordings of Vektari officials, laughing about human complaints, documents showing how they had been slowly pushing into Earth territory, testing our responses. The Confederation Council has dismissed our latest petition, he said. They say without proof of deliberate action, they cannot sanction the Vektari. So they get away with it? Ji-ho asked, his voice tight with anger. They killed my brother. They killed all those people and nothing happens? Admiral Song looked at Director Shin, who nodded slowly. No, Admiral Song said firmly. They do not get away with it. The Council may not act, but we will. He pressed a button, and the IM screen showed a new image on a detailed plan called Operation Thunderbolt. For the past year, while smiling at the Confederation and playing nice, we've been preparing, Director Shin explained. We knew from our first contact that some species would never respect us unless we showed strength. The plan was bold and dangerous. Earth would launch a direct military response against key Vektari facilities. Not their civilian areas, but military and government targets. It would break Confederation rules about conflict resolution, but as Admiral Song put it, those rules only work when both sides respect them. We need experienced space crews, Director Shin said, looking at Do-hyun and his team. People who have dealt with the Vektari before. This means risking war, Do-hyun said. Not just with the Vektari, but possibly with other Confederation species. We've considered that, Admiral Song replied. But we've also considered the cost of doing nothing. If we don't respond now, the message is clear. Humans can be killed without consequences. The room was quiet as everyone thought about this. Then Ji-ho stood up. My brother was a scientist, he said. He never hurt anyone. The Vektari killed him like he was nothing. He looked at Admiral Song. I'm in. One by one, the others agreed. Even those with doubts understood what was at stake. As they left the meeting, Do-hyun walked beside Tae-won. Are you ready for this? He asked the engineer. Tae-won nodded. I've been working on some new ideas since Nexus Station. Things I didn't show anyone. He smiled grimly. The Vektari think our technology is primitive. I'm looking forward to showing them how wrong they are. Earth began quiet preparations. Ships were modified, weapons systems upgraded. Special teams trained for specific targets, all while maintaining a public face of diplomatic patience. In his quarters, Do-hyun looked at the stars through his window. He had joined space service to explore, to learn, to connect with other intelligent life. Not for this. Never for this. But the Vektari had left no choice. They had broken the one rule they should have never broken. They had angered humans. And, soon, they would learn exactly what that meant. They're here, said the Vektari guard, looking at the screen with mild interest. Human ships approaching the outer defense line. Supreme Commander Zolix looked up from his reports. He walked to the main screen of the Vektari Defense Center. 5 human vessels were moving toward their space station. They were old models, nothing impressive. They actually came, he said, sounding amused. After all our warnings. News had spread through Confederation channels that Earth was mobilizing ships. Most species thought the humans were making a mistake. The Vektari had been part of the Galactic's community for centuries. They had powerful allies and advanced technology. Humans had been in space for less than 100 years. Should we warn them again to turn back? Asked a junior officer. No, Zolix said. They have chosen their path. Activate Defense Grid 3. That should be enough. Across Vektari space, similar scenes played out. Human ships appeared near military bases, research stations, and key government facilities. Always in small numbers, always older models. The Vektari military was puzzled but not worried. On board the Horizon, now modified for combat, Captain Do-hyun Kim watched the Vektari station grow larger on the view screen. Their defense grid is active, said Lee Ji-ho from his station. His eyes were focused, determined. He had volunteered to be part of the first wave. Shields at maximum, reported Security Chief Choi Da-in. All teams ready. Any response to our message? Do-hyun asked. None, Jiho replied. They're ignoring us. Do-hyun nodded. Earth had sent one final warning to the Vectari government. Withdraw from Earth territory. Apologize for the destroyed research ship and agree to Confederation oversight. The Vectari hadn't even bothered to answer. Taewon, is the system ready? Do-hyun asked. Engineer Park Taewon looked up from his station with a small smile. Yes, Captain. All ships report ready. Begin the operation, Do-hyun ordered. On the Vectari station, alarm suddenly blared. The screen showing the human ships flickered and went dark. What's happening? Commander Zolix demanded. Our sensors are being jammed, an officer reported, sounding confused. But how? Their technology shouldn't be able to. A new alert sounded. Multiple new contacts, someone shouted. They're all around us. The screens came back online showing. Not 5 human ships, but 20. They had been there all along, hidden by technology the Vectari didn't know humans possessed. Impossible, Zolix whispered. On the horizon, Taewon was working quickly at his station. Quantum disruptors active, he reported. Their shield frequency is locked. This was Taewon's secret project. After the incident at Nexus Station, he had studied Vectari shield technology and found a weakness. Their advanced shields could stop any normal weapon, but they had a pattern, a rhythm to their energy flow. If you could match that rhythm perfectly, you could slip right through. Fire, Do-hyun ordered. The human ships fired precise shots that passed through the Vectari shields as if they weren't there. Not at the habitat sections where civilians lived, but at weapon systems, engines, and communication arrays. Within minutes, the Vectari station was defenseless. Boarding teams go, Do-hyun said. Dian led the first team onto the Vectari station. They moved quickly and efficiently. The Vectari guards tried to stop them, but the humans had studied their tactics. They knew exactly where to go and what to do. All across Vectari space, the same thing was happening. Human forces disabled ships and stations with surgical precision. They had planned for months, gathering intelligence, finding weaknesses, preparing for every possibility. 6 hours after the operation began, Admiral Song contacted all team leaders from Earth Command. Status report, he said. All primary targets secured, Do-hyun reported from the main Vectari defense station where Commander Zolix now sat in shock, his officers under guard. Minimal casualties on both sides, Dae-in added. Most Vectari surrendered once their systems failed. Similar reports came in from all sectors. The operation had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. Earth forces now controlled every major Vectari military installation, and they had done it with minimal loss of life. The Confederation Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from all species gathered, many angry that humans had broken the rules of conflict resolution. But their anger turned to surprise when Earth's representatives presented their evidence. The secret recordings of Vectari officials planning provocations. The data showing the Vectari ship had deliberately destroyed the Explorer. The documents revealing a long-term Vectari plan to keep humans in their place. The council chambers went silent as they realized what had happened. The Vectari had been playing a dangerous game, counting on Confederation politics to protect them. Admiral Song spoke to the council. We regret the necessity of military action, but when diplomacy is ignored and our people are killed without consequences, we must act to protect ourselves. A representative of the Malar, one of the oldest species, leaned forward. The evidence is concerning, but your response was unexpected. How did you overcome Vectari defenses so easily? Taewon stepped forward with technical data showing how humans had adapted and improved technology they'd learned from other species. We may be new to the stars, he said, but we learn quickly. The council deliberated for 3 days. In the end, they ruled that while Earth's military action was against Confederation protocols, the Vectari's actions had been worse. The Vectari would be placed under Confederation oversight for 10 years, and Earth would withdraw its forces once a peacekeeping team was in place. As the Earth ships prepared to return home, Do-hyun met with Zolix one last time. You could have destroyed us, the Vectari commander said quietly. Your ships had clear shots at our civilian centers. Why didn't you take them? Because that's not who we are, Do-hyun replied. We're not here to conquer or destroy. We just want respect and fair treatment. You have earned that, Solix admitted. But not all species will see it that way. Some will fear you now. Perhaps, Do-hyun said. But fear isn't what we want. We would rather have understanding. As Do-hyun turned to leave, Solix asked one more question. If we had not killed your people, would you have done this? Do-hyun thought for a moment. No. We were patient with your insults and your games. But when you took innocent lives, you crossed a line. A lesson for all of us, Solix said. Later, as the Horizon headed back to Earth, the crew gathered on the bridge. They had done what many thought impossible. They had shown the galaxy that humans were not to be taken lightly. What happens now, Captain? Ji-ho asked. Now we go back to what we're supposed to be doing, Do-hyun said. Exploring, learning, making friends instead of enemies. But everyone in the galaxy now knew one important rule. Don't anger humans. They come in peace, but they will defend their own. And they are far more capable than they appear. It was a lesson the Vektari had learned the hard way, a lesson no other species would soon forget.